All right, thank you all for coming. I'm delighted to see you all this afternoon as our team is prepared to make some remarks and answer any questions you may have regarding the Safer Kentucky Act. I would also like to recognize that today is National Law Enforcement Appreciation Day, and on behalf of our team, we would like to thank law enforcement throughout our great Commonwealth for the heroic service they provide in keeping our community safe and secure. On the same topic of public safety, security, and protection, today, after 9 months of dedicated policy work, hundreds of hours of meetings, our team filed the Safer Kentucky Act. We would like to express our deep appreciation to all stakeholders that came to the table to assist in the process over the interim, and we fully expect stakeholder involvement in the legislative process moving forward. We are blessed with the opportunity to run these critical reforms as House Bill 5, and as Speaker of the House, David Osborne has stated recently, this critical public safety, security, and protection policy is a priority for our caucus in the 2024 session. The support of our caucus for these critical reforms was clearly demonstrated today, as 45 of our colleagues have signed on to co-sponsor the Safer Kentucky Act, with more expected in the coming weeks. The first duty of any civilized society is to protect its honest citizens from those that prey on their innocent fellow citizens. Crime is something that directly impacts every single Kentuckian, and it is with a deep sense of purpose and value that we put forward the critical reforms in the Safer Kentucky Act. We'd love to open it up for questions now.
I want to describe the act. What are some of the provisions?
So we can go through them. Some of the most critical have to deal with violent crime. 3 strikes law that will require any experienced violent criminal that commits 3 violent felonies, to serve life in prison without the possibility of parole. It will create a Kentucky state carjacking statute. There are some provisions in there to help with reducing recidivism as well, to require regular evaluations of our reentry programs so we can adequately fund the ones that are doing well, that are worth the investment, and also provide group violence intervention for those that need it as well. So it's a pretty well-balanced bill. The majority of it is focused on violent crime.
Can you talk about how it's evolved since this was first made public in September?
Yeah, so after it was made public, well, actually really even leading up to that, we had countless meetings with stakeholders throughout really the summer, and then in the fall we were ready to take it public. We felt like we were in a good position at that time, and after we did that, as you might imagine, a lot of people came forward to provide input on the policy, and so we have made a number of adjustments and edits to our drafts since September when we did that initial press conference, all the way up to the bill we filed today. The bill we filed today is not the same as the one we filed in committee. We took some of the feedback from our Democrat colleagues to adjust the policy based on their feedback. And I would expect that as we go through the process moving forward, there could be further edits too.
Talk about
This is a big bill. Do you think any particular provision might hold it up? Or, obviously when you talk about a lot of different measures in one bill, for sometimes it gets,
Yeah, I think the bill is commensurate with the public safety, security, and protection needs of the state. I do not see any particular provision holding it up, though, no.
Talking to stakeholders about this when it was coming together. Who in Louisville, any Louisville leaders you talked to, and just kind of what input did they give you?
Yeah, I think the most well-known would be Mayor Greenberg and his staff. So we worked with them. Obviously, the city of Louisville is the epicenter of the crime epidemic in our state, and we met with the police chiefs. So all those leaders came to the table and helped us craft the policy.
You said that this bill is not the same as the one filed in committee. Are there any big changes that you think people should be looking out for?
No, nothing real big. Some minor technical changes. One that comes to top of mind is around the vandalism and ensuring that every Kentuckian, regardless of economic status, has the ability to have that charge reduced if they make restitution appropriately.
We added, instead of restitution for the vandalism portion, you can lower your charge by making restitution or replacement. We added that you can also serve community service instead of that. So we took the feedback that we got from committee and added that as an option, just to make it fair that not everyone can pay their way out of out of a felony.
One of the changes that caught my eye in this bill, or changes to the law rather, that would be enacted if this bill were passed, relates to, involuntary commitment. One of the requirements for involuntary commitment was struck. Can you sort of talk about how involuntary commitments play into this bill and what you see as the benefit?
Yeah, it's a great question, and I'm going to let Whit Nemus address that because he knows this one very well.
Thank you. Thanks for the question. So a few years ago, now Congressman Morgan McGarvey and I and Senator Julie Rocky Adams worked on a bill that would ensure that people who have been determined that they're not sane enough to assist in their defense, so they can't be tried, will stay incarcerated or committed if they're too dangerous to be released. And so we had a provision in there that said that there had to be a history of violence. And so what we have now is there's at least one situation where this young man has killed his mother and he's set to get out, and the brothers and sisters are scared to death of the guy. But because he doesn't have the history of violence where he's been convicted, then he gets to be released into the community. And so it wouldn't be safe to do so. So what we've done is we've said, and I want to be very clear on what's required. What we've done is we've said, if you're charged with a serious offense, and you go through a process to show that you're likely the one that's committed that crime, but you're not sane enough to help in your own defense, so you can't be tried and convicted of the underlying crime, then we are going to allow we're going to hospitalize you involuntarily until you are able to stand for your own defense. So that's what we've done. It's in a number of crimes, and there are protections in there for the defendant. I would also note that we worked with the mental health community and the public defenders on this particular provision. So we feel that this provision will garner broad support across the aisle. I don't think this is one of the controversial provisions in there. It's very limited.
Does this bill have an emergency clause?
So, yeah. I'll get Jared back on the mic, but I do want to add to the question on who we met with in Louisville. It wasn't just the mayor and the police chief, which it certainly was them. We met with homeless community, public defenders community, lawyers across the board, organizations all from the right to the left, prosecutors a number of times. Representative Hodgson and I are in continuous communication with some of the prosecutors in Louisville about particular provisions. We had a long conversation yesterday with one of them. So we've had a number of communications with legislators, council members, and anyone who wants to be at the table, we want to hear from. And so, obviously any bill can be improved. So if someone has some improvements or suggestions, we want to hear those.
Thank you. And no, sir, it does not have an emergency clause.
And to go further into, with this, if this does pass, how do you measure its effectiveness moving forward, especially as you look to make future improvements or tweaks to this?
Yeah, I think it's easy to measure the effectiveness when you consider its focus on violent crime and the impact it has on our community and the cost it's had on our community. When you talk about human life, we've lost, a number of children in our community based on the crime in Louisville, and I think that's a good way to measure it, is those lives being saved, because under this bill, those people wouldn't have been out in our community to offend because they have chosen a life of violent crime, and we want to make sure that those people in the state of Kentucky are behind bars.
So you've emphasized the violent crime elements of this bill. Obviously, it doesn't just deal with violent crime, it also deals with tenants' law or landlords' rights, also deals with the homeless population, which is not necessarily violent. Can you talk about why these are all lumped together in one large bill?
Yeah, I think there's a lot of different elements that crime touches, and quality of life is certainly one of them. And one thing that we hear constantly from our constituents is the issue of street camping, and so we wanted to address that in this policy, and that's what we plan to do. And if Representative Hodgson would like to speak to it further, that'd be fine.
Okay, so studies show that somewhere around 70% or more of the unsheltered homeless population has either serious mental illness or drug abuse problems. Many of those individuals choose not to seek rehab, and there's nothing compassionate about leaving someone on the street with untreated mental illness and drug addiction, because studies show that they will spiral downward to premature death. And along the way, they're going to create other problems. They're going to devalue the business community. Surveys show that people don't like to go where unsheltered homeless people are panhandling them on the street or camping on the sidewalk. We do create a public safety hazard anytime they are camping by a roadway, sometimes even in between lanes on the interstate they camp there. When they step onto traffic, if they come panhandle all your cars there, people can get hit, people can swerve, cause accidents. We had the horrible incident downtown in broad daylight on the Center where a unsheltered homeless man jumped up and raped a woman at 9:30 in the morning. So certainly don't want to suggest that an entire population is like that, but among the unsheltered homeless population is a high risk element for panhandling, petty crime, and things that generally endanger the public and public health with things like feces on the sidewalk, used drug paraphernalia. So we're trying to say it's not a crime to be homeless, but you can do it in a defined area that the city can designate. In that defined area, we'll have to have sanitary facilities, at least porta potties and drinkable water. That gives service agencies, police, fire, EMS more access to that population. And hopefully what we can do, the most compassionate thing we can do as a society, is to nudge those people towards getting the help they need. We've got empty beds that are funded every single night for rehab, and people just don't want to go because they don't want rehab. And if you don't want rehab and you're not going to comply with the rules of society, then that's where the law kicks in.
I've got a question about that designated area. The line I read in the bill says that local government may designate an
That's
area.
correct.
Does that not require them?
Does not require. It's up to the municipality. But I think there is one in Louisville. They are talking about those things, but you have to have local control is important, and this is statewide. It's not just Louisville, but there's a variety of measures. Permanent supportive housing works, but that permanent supportive housing always has preconditions. You've got to cease from committing crimes. You've got to enter into a drug treatment program. These areas for outdoor camping, if you will. You can't camp here in front of someone's business or in their backyard, but you can go to this designated parking lot and camp. They have the opportunity to do that.
There were some critics during the drafting process, and I'm not sure who's best to answer this, who said that this doesn't do enough to address the root causes of crime and instead would just put more people in jail. Do you have any kind of response to that, or?
Yeah, so I've been here for this is my eighth session. We've done a great deal on the underlying causes of crime. And one of the things the governor said during his State of the Union, I'm very proud of this. I think all of us are. Kentucky has more treatment beds per capita than any other state in the country. So I want to repeat that again. I mean, that's a massive thing. Kentucky has more treatment beds per capita than any other state in the country. And so to say that we're not doing things to address our friends and our neighbors and our family members who are addicted, I think is wrong. So what this bill is the second part of that component. We've done a lot, and we're doing a lot this session, and you'll see a lot more to address the underlying concerns. If you're addicted, we want to throw treatment at you. If you don't want it, we want to throw it at you even harder. We want you to get help. The homeless situation that Representative Hodgson just talked about, I think, shows a little bit of the heart of who we're trying to be here. But this bill, let me be clear, this bill is about better identifying those who are going to commit violence against us, finding them, and putting them in jail for a long time. My favorite part of the bill, a lot of people say the 3 strikes you're out thing. I want to note this is not the normal 3 strikes you're out. This is 3 violent offenses and you're out, which is much different than most of the 3 strikes you're out across the country. And so I think 2 is enough. If you've committed 2 violent acts against somebody, you should go to the prison for a long time, perhaps the rest of your life. 3, certainly enough. What about the 4th victim? We're trying to reduce victims. And if you've said to us numerous times that you're not willing to live within the bounds of decency, and you're willing to harm our mothers and daughters and our fathers and our sons and our brothers and our neighbors, then we need you off the street. So to answer the question, to go back to the beginning, we've done a lot, and we will continue to do a lot to address drug addicts and other underlying causes of crime. But this bill is about putting people who are going to continue to commit crime, getting them off our streets. We're not going to be compassionate to those people. Thank you.
Got a question about the carjacking section of the bill. Can you kind of speak on why it's important to make that its own sort of crime or ordinance as opposed to just charging them with another crime?
Yeah, again, we did this as a team, and I want to let all the team members speak where needed. And Emily Calloway actually handled this provision, so I'd like her to take that if that's okay.
Thank you. So it was brought up in some of the conversations that we were having that we don't actually have a crime for carjacking. It's charged as robbery 1, and so we decided that needed to be fixed. for multiple reasons. One of which just so we can track it, and it will be considered a crime. And it's publicly known that we're taking it very seriously, that we're clamping down on it. It's been on the rise. 200% increase in carjackings over the last 2 years is unacceptable. And so we just want to send a message and get it on our books.
All right, is that it? Thank
Do
you.
you foresee any challenges in getting this bill to passage, either with other Republicans in your caucus or in the Senate?
Well, I know I'm new, but I've learned there's no easy bill. So yeah, I definitely think there'll be some challenges, and we're looking forward to those. To be honest, that's sometimes where we learn the most from those that want to challenge our way of thinking. So I look forward to those challenges and hope that it helps us put forward the most effective policy for our state. We do want it to be strong. We want to hold violent criminals accountable. We want it to be very effective as well. So everyone is welcome with a seat at the table. So those conversations will continue. Thank you, guys.